Welcome to the third episode in season one of the Ashki Studio and Brown Girl Unscripted Collaborative podcast, where we celebrate the voices and stories of women of color and get real with you unscripted. I'm your host, Richa Dave, and the CEO of Ashki Studio. And our mission is to create a safe space where every woman of color feels seen and injected by an extra dose of empowerment to go out there and be her most confident self, wearing and doing whatever she pleases. Our guest today is Ritika. Ritika Agrawal is the host of Chai with Champs podcast and works in ad tech NBC. Ritika, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on Ashiki and this podcast. I'm so excited to support you in your journey.
Yeah, no, I love that. We're super excited to delve into meaningful conversations about body positivity, breaking societal norms, and much more today. Tell us how you're doing today.
I'm doing really great, and I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I mean, like knowing your history and like your past with body positivity and what you're getting with Ashiki now, I'm really excited for this conversation to be super fruitful and kind of like reach other young brown girls like us.
Yes, no, we gotta have the representation out there. We know how powerful that is.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, so you are a very ambitious girl. Can you share a bit about your journey and what inspired you to pursue your current path?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think it goes all the way back. So I was born in New York, raised in Nigeria and India. So really got that global perspective at a very early age. And that exposed me to the concept of diversity and the concept of, the power of community. So I was always very intrigued by that. And as I was growing up, I realized that a lot of these communities were, impacted by storytelling. That's kind of what shaped it. That's what, pop culture is all about. And it was always doing that for the better. Or like media was trying to do that for the better. So I think that seed was somehow ingrained in my head for a very long time. Fast forward to, I think, college days, I studied advertising and data science, built a foundation called Young Media Professionals Foundation, where I was trying to bridge the gap between students and industry leaders, raised funds for India's COVID-19 relief, and like was interviewed by NBC News. So that was really cool. And then worked for a global ad agency after I graduated, which was super cool because, of course we see campaigns on TV, but it takes a village to kind of build those. And you get to be a part of these conversations right from the beginning. So whether it's, storyboards, casting, or the final campaigns that you see on TV, you truly, truly get to make a difference. And even with my podcast now, I'm trying to amplify multicultural stories from across the globe. And now I work at ad tech at NBCU, which we know as a media giant. So I think from everything that I've been doing and everything that I want to continue to do, I want to be involved in storytelling and I want to be able to make a difference in every realm that I'm going through. So I feel like that seed that was ingrained in my head much earlier on has somehow like grown and flourished, and I want to continue to do that. So I think just the global experience really brought me here, and I'm excited to keep doing that.
Yeah, no, I honestly love that for you. I can't imagine like definitely working in, so you're a really creative, you have your podcast and you also work at NBC, like seeing like the creative aspects of both your careers. I think that must be really fruitful. And while you said like you have global experience when it comes to being exposed to so many different cultures, what would you say your experience has been like in seeing like different body positivity and beauty standards throughout?
That's a great question. And honestly, it has been so different in every like region. Well, I was super, super young in Nigeria, but from what I remember is the women and the men, they loved body positivity. Like they embraced their bodies over there. There was never a notion or a concept of like, you shouldn't be looking like this or you shouldn't be looking like that. Like there was a lot of embracing over there and self-love, which I remember, and I've continued to hear that throughout. Moving to India, it's definitely a very different experience there because when you talk about diversity in India, it's not so much about ethnicity, it's more about like age and gender and body type and skin color and whatnot. And I think the concept of like being skinny or like being fat or being thin, like, first of all, I don't know who invented these words. Second of all, I don't know why they're applied to people. And it's very strong. At least when I was growing up in India, it was very, very strong. Like aunties had comments to make. The friends that you hung out with had comments to make. And it's kind of a sad experience because as a young teenage girl, those are the kind of things you start thinking about. And I know that I was super obsessed with it. And my journey with like body positivity has been so different because of that. And I'm glad that it has changed in my 20s, right? So I think that was my experience in India with body positivity. It was different. And when I came to the US, I think for me, it's been more professional than personal. Like I've realized that there are conversations that we need to have. So how can I be a part of that so that young girls don't have to go through what we went through? So it's been different everywhere.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I think it is real. Like, been growing up, so I grew up in Jersey, which is a very like South Asian heavily dominated place. And like I can definitely relate to what you're saying, where like the concept of like skinny and fat, like that was so ingrained. And of course, like I'm not saying it's just Indian culture that has that. It's like a lot of other cultures have it, but I do definitely resonate with that. Like I think like when you are like 13, 14, and then you hear like these older people, younger people just like talking about these things and you're just finding your way in the world, it can definitely be a bit overwhelming. And I think that journey of like feeling like that in your teens and then getting to like your like late teens and like 20s, you go to college, experience the world more, and you're like, it doesn't have to be like that, you know? I think like that was a big thing for me where I realized that. So I'm sure maybe you can resonate with that as well.
Yeah, completely. I completely resonate with that.
Yeah. What would you say like has been the representation and impact of mental health when it comes to body positivity for you? So like having seen so many different standards like between Nigeria, India, like being in the US now, I know you travel a lot too. So like what has your journey been like with that?
That is such a good question, Rucha. I think mental health is so underrated when we talk about body positivity. I think our mind in general is like the most underrated part of our body. Like we don't talk about it as much as we should. And honestly, I've something that I've learned in the last couple of years is that if your mind is not like doing well, your body's gonna not react, like is also not gonna function that well, right? And
Yeah.
if we feel the slightest pain on our body, we express pain, we like are not feeling real well, we go to the doctor. But for some reason, like we just don't do that enough with our mind. And that's because we've not had those conversations when we're younger. I think there's been that stigma of oh, like if she's feeling a certain way in her mind, there, it can be shrugged off, or it can be avoided, or you know what, she's probably just having a rough day. Like no, like you need to have these conversations to understand how important mental health is when it comes to body positivity. And that's kind of what triggers your self affirmations and those concept of self love, right? I think in all my experiences growing up, of course, Nigeria, was very young, didn't face any criticism or anything of that sort there. Even in India, I think it was mainly like media standards, that kind of had this notion of how you should look and how you should behave. I mentioned, like, I think during my teen years, I was obsessed with it. Like, I would look at myself in the mirror and get ready. And the first question I would ask my mom or my best friend would be, am I looking fat? And it would go on for like a good hour, and it would go on throughout the day. And I would be subconsciously like conscious of myself throughout the day. That like affects your mental health because that's like this negative force of energy, I feel like, that just gets carried with you even into your 20s. And I'm just so glad that I realized this right now. Like, I don't have to carry that forward anymore. I don't have to have that negative energy as emotional baggage for me. And in the US, I think we have more conversations about mental health. It's more recognized here, which I really appreciate. So I think with the last 7 years that I've spent in this country, I've learned so much more, and I'm glad. So I feel like my future generations won't have to go through what I did or what we did in the young teen years. I don't know if that fully answers your question. I feel like that was long-winded, but I think mental health is just such an important aspect of body positivity, and we should all continue to kind of embrace that aspect as well.
Yeah, that's so real. Like what you mentioned about like questioning and asking yourself or like people around you closest, like, oh, like do I look fat? Like I think that's an experience that so many young girls, like I mean, I relate to that. I did the same thing. It'd be like maybe I wouldn't ask someone, but it's like in your head and it's like a like on loop. And I think it can be so damaging, honestly, too, because like that's when you should be really just like you're coming into your body, you're like learning things. It
Yeah.
should be a positive experience. And I think like when I look back on it, I'm just like, why? Like, it's so like I don't want to say the word stupid, but it's like it's like why? Like why would like
Yeah.
a young girl to be questioning that? Like why?
Exactly, exactly. And like, who put this notion in my head? My parents weren't saying anything to me. My grandparents weren't saying anything to me. Like, who was this like triggering this thought in my head? And I would do that so much. I remember my youngest sister, she was about like 4 or 5, and I caught her standing in front of the mirror with like her top up and looking at her stomach. And I was just like, she's doing this because she's seen me do it. So I stopped doing it in my house, like in front of other people, because I was like, this obsessive attitude is going to get passed down and it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy. Like a 4-year-old shouldn't be talking about, oh, is she looking fat? Like,
Yeah.
are we seriously doing that to ourselves and the next generation? I feel like we need to pause there. That's insane.
I know. I think like talking, well, first off, props to you for recognizing that when you were younger and just being like, I'm not gonna do that. But also it's like it's just wild to think about, like especially being now when we have all this not representation necessarily, but just like more conversations about this. Like I would say for me, I really started noticing more conversation about body positivity more so like in college.
Yeah.
Um, I think like before that, like even like in high school and stuff, it's like it'd be talked about body positivity in the sense of like, oh, you should like wear what you want and you won't get like body shamed, like that sort of thing. But there was always that thing of like, oh, but if I'm this size, like, like I don't know, like or even being a size small, like for me, that was such a big thing. I was like, why? Like I need to make sure my size stays at small. Like, and I'm like, why?
It's insane. It's insane. I think I learned the fact that you could be a size small at a Zara and you'd be a size large at a Uniqlo. And that can throw you off so much. And it's frustrating. The amount, like these little labels and these little words can trigger you. Because I know it did that to me when I was like in my teens. Yeah, I'm so glad we're having these conversations now.
Yeah, I think also like being a designer and business owner now, and I'm going through the process of what it takes to make sizes for clothing. I'm learning that the sizes don't mean anything. Like it's so different for each brand, each type of like
Yeah.
apparel and everything. So the fact that like it's being marketed or like you said, whoever told us that we should care about these things, it's just wild. I think a lot of it does have to do with like generational trauma. I think there's something to be said about
Absolutely.
that because
Mhm.
it's like what you said with your sister, right? Like you saw, she saw you doing that and then she was like, oh, maybe I should do that. I think like a lot of the times you see older women who maybe haven't learned about like these things as much because they didn't have the opportunities or representation. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, like should I be concerned about that? Because it's like, what other representation do you see? You know?
Exactly. And I think media just plays such a huge role in this, right? I think media is the one that's kind of shown us this is the ideal body type and this is the ideal skin color or whatever, right? And media has such a strong power, whether it's through radio, whether it's through TV. And when you watch it over and over again, you get influenced. I mean, now we have social media, we have influencers. It's the same concept back in the day. And I think that's why I like chose to be in the media business so that I can be a part of these conversations and help change narratives, so that other young girls like don't have to go through this at all.
Yeah, no, I love that for you. I think it is so powerful, especially because you don't realize how much media is impacting you in this way until you're exposed to different types of media. Like, you know the show Never Have I Ever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so before that, there was not that much South Asian representation in a very like positive way in the US. And I think
Yeah.
when I saw that show, like, and it's obviously like you're not gonna relate to every single aspect. It's like they're starting out, but it was insane, like seeing that representation and seeing other people doing these sort of things, or like in like this actress, like she just like made it. It was her first, she applied for
Yeah.
a job, and like it kind of opens you up to the possibility that you can do something like that too. I think my mind changed and my mindset changed a lot when I saw more people being represented in media when they were
Yeah.
talking about pursuing a business, like pursuing being a model full time, all these different things, or an actress, and then them making it too. I think it's
I
so
fully agree with
powerful
you.
because before that, I don't think I really considered that I could do anything. Like I don't think I would be in the place that I'm in right now where I'm pursuing business full time if I didn't see those things. So props to
Yeah.
media for that. Like there's
I
positive.
know. And props to people like you as well, right, Rucha? Because you're getting inspired for the right reasons and you're taking action on it. And now younger girls don't just have to see media, they have like examples in real life to look up to, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I think that goes for you too. I think it's like you pursued something like in like the corporate world where you feel like good about it and you love it. I think a lot of the times, especially like when we're fed like, oh, like you should go through this traditional path or not, like it's seen as like something like super boring, you know? And I think it's like it's really cool that you chose something that's super exciting and that like you're able to see different avenues because I think there isn't that much representation for that even. Like I remember applying for jobs and stuff and it was just like it's just one like pathway and like I love that you chose that. And then the fact that you're able to choose this other career for yourself, like starting a podcast, I think many people feel like they have to choose one thing or the other.
I agree. I know. Thank you so much. I think the whole world of the social media has changed it for us. I'm really blessed that we can multitask and do two things at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I think that like in regards to media, I think one thing in terms of representation that makes a big difference for body positivity, I would say it's seeing more plus size models or just diversity of models for different brands. What do you feel like has been your experience in seeing brands as you're shopping, and just like seeing different types of models? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have I think a very mixed feeling about this. Like for me, I am so happy that we have representation and that brands are taking action and they're recognizing what's important.
Yeah.
And seeing people like us or seeing people with different body types on like banners or like campaigns is so important. But I think I maybe a few of them, maybe I'm one of the few. I just don't like the term plus size model. I think
Yeah.
that kind of just changes the perspective and changes the narrative one more time. Like, I think we're all different. Who has decided that this specific model is a plus size model? When you put that label on a model, when you say that that person's plus size, you're immediately saying that they're not the ideal body type and that they're different. So I think that's my take on it. I just wish that brands stopped calling models like by size, like by saying plus size model or by saying like they're a model. They're models, that's their job. And yeah, I think I just have that much to say on it. I think they're doing the right thing, but we need to stop saying plus size model. Nobody says that in other fields of work. You don't say she's a plus size corporate woman or she's a whatever, right? So why are we doing that for models? And
Yeah.
why are we doing that? Yeah.
Honestly, no, I love that. I think like even when you see brands specifically that like whether it's like petite or plus size, like they'll use those words. I think that in itself can create like negative connotations because like if you have grown up with like this concept that like we did a lot of the times where it's like you should be skinny, like you're gonna be like, wait, like why am I a plus size or why am I a petite? Like, you know, you're gonna be thinking,
Yeah, exactly. Like if you end up going to a store and buying something from the plus size section, there's a different section for that. Like, do we need it? Does that section need to be called out? Like, no, not at all. It can be with the size small through whatever. I think we are doing it, but we're also again destroying the purpose of it by doing that.
yeah, you know what I think it is? I think it's like they're trying, or like a lot of brands are trying to do it, and then like they're like, yeah, now we have a plus size section, or now we have a petite section.
Yeah,
You
like
have to
you
have
don't
it.
have to call out your efforts. You don't have to publicize the fact that you are now understanding what you're doing and now you are catering to a market you should have always catered to, right? And by doing that, you're just destroying it. And that breaks my heart every time I see like, plus size sections. I'm just like, come on, like that's not the
Yeah.
purpose of it. Yeah.
No, I get that. I really do think that it should just be sizes in general, like you said. I
Yeah.
think that's something I'm making a point to include in my brand because I think like it pisses me off too sometimes when I see different sections because you have that inherent like biased thought. Like anyone, you know, and like granted as women, I think like there's so much media, like to this day, even other like younger generations that they're like fed. And I think it's like it's just not necessary. Like you shouldn't have to go to a different, it's like you're oh like the others. Like, you know, it's like
Yeah,
I
you
don't like
don't have to be segregated or put in a different bucket. And I've noticed this more for women than for men. Like I've not seen sections for men like that. There might be, I might not be fully aware of it, but I just haven't seen that much of
yeah.
conversations around men as much as I've seen it around women.
Yeah, I think there's something to say about that for sure. I, I think, yeah, I feel like it's the like I feel like a guy can like wake up and just like go do like whatever. Like even like have you seen like you know those like 2000 movies where it's like the when the girl is running late for her job or something, she's like slapping on all this makeup and she's getting ready and it's like a longer process and like the guy just like barely brushes his teeth and runs out.
Yes,
I think
yeah.
like seeing stuff like that definitely creates this like for young girls especially, it's like, oh, like if I'm a girl, like I have to spend that much time on my makeup and I have to do like this and this, but like guys can just do whatever. And I
Yeah.
think that like honestly, it should be more so just that makeup is a form of expression, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Um,
It's not a
yeah.
standard of beauty. Like you don't have to look that way, just because, media is showing that to you. And I think one concept that a lot of people fail to understand is
Yeah.
that a lot of women now like dress up for themselves. Like even
Yeah.
makeup is for themselves. Like we're not doing it to impress you or to show you that we understand the standards of beauty. And I think younger girls also need to understand that. Like it's not for somebody else, it's for yourself. And if you're doing it, you're doing it because you enjoy it and because you think you look better in it, not for any other reason. So yeah, media plays a huge role, and I'm glad that the media is shaping and changing their narrative through different stories. I think it's so important.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm also seeing more shows in media where that narrative is being placed, where like the girl is getting ready and like it's like she's like, do I like this? And does it look good
Yeah.
on me? I love that because I think when we were growing up, it was more so just like, oh my God, is he gonna like this? Or is he
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
it? Like,
yeah.
I don't know, like I'm
It's
like
so
thinking
true.
about it now. Yeah, thinking about it now and like our mindsets on it. I'm just like, that's like actually insane. Like you're literally
Yeah,
getting all dressed up for like a whole man. And you're not even thinking about what you like. Like what?
not at all. That's so true. That is exactly the way it was.
Yeah, yeah, but I like that it's like getting more different now, and I think like more and more brands and like different models and just like people are more like coming out and talking about it, even influencers.
Yeah, I think another example that just came to my mind is Deepa Khosla. I love her brand, and I was actually like looking at her lip balm the other day on her website, and they have like these little banners, of them applying lipstick. Their faces are untouched, and I absolutely loved it. It was beauty expressed in its rawest and most beautiful way. It was untouched, it was unfiltered, and I think when we see more like South Asian representation like that, when we see more South Asian media like that, I think it's really influencing young girls for the right reasons.
Yeah, that's so real. No, do you know Live Tinted?
Yes.
Yeah, I think like I love like both of those brands. I follow them
Yeah.
heavily, and I think like even seeing how Deepika has like incorporated being real, like and how when she talks about her brand or when she talks about her products, like she'll be like it addresses hyperpigmentation for like for a lot of brown girls, and I think honestly up until recently I didn't even realize like this was something that like you have to
Yeah.
specifically cater to, and it's not like there's nothing wrong with us, you know, like
Yeah.
and that's a crazy thing if you think about it.
Exactly. Those two are real, like they're the real pioneers in, I think, South Asian beauty and like what they've with their message, especially with how they're like amplifying it.
Yeah, I think I really like how Deepa is like bringing forth just like oiling your hair. I think there's something to be said like a lot of the time like those rituals were kind of seen as cringy for a while where it's
Yeah.
like you don't want to do it. It's like more something, oh, like my mom's telling me to do it, so I'm doing it. But it's like not something that you like you want to do. And I think that there's something to be said about how the media and showcasing these things like different influencers like Deepika, them talking about that, it makes a difference for young girls who are seeing it
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, like this is just good for my hair. Like it's
Yeah.
it's a beauty thing. Like just like how I want to put lipstick on, I should put oil in my hair so it makes
Yep.
it healthier and so I can have better hair.
Exactly. That's so true.
Yeah. What would you feel like, or not what do you feel like? What do you think is like the biggest way in which media has impacted you in term recent years?
Media impacted me in recent years. Oh my gosh, I need to think about this. This is such a good question.
Yeah,
Let
take
me
your
think about
time.
it. How has media impacted me in the recent years? I think more, I have to think about this. So my answer is literally like coming in top of my mind. But I think for me, it's more like because I'm working in media so much, I think more than a consumer, I've become a person on the other side of the table where I recognize, what's happening. I think Never Have I Ever is a great example now that I'm in the US with the way like she was represented. A lot of people around me started understanding that, like even simple things like this is a little away from our conversation about body positivity, but just a general like thing because I came from India and went into undergrad here. One comment that I heard a lot was, oh, like your English is so good. You don't sound like you've come from India. And I was just like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I realized that characters like Raj, for example, in Big Bang Theory, had a very different accent. And that is the kind of accent that was shown for most South Asians in most like Western media, right? And then when they do show India also, for example, in movies, it's always like this one typical area that they show, and the people over here believe that that's just how India is. Whereas India's like second language is literally English. Like we all talk in English. We've all gone, well, not all of us, but like most of us have gone to like English language schools and whatnot, right? So
Yeah.
that was like a little bit different for me. And then when I came here to be hearing comments like that was very, like, I was always taken aback by them. So when I see Never Have I Ever, or when I see like Avantika in Mean Girls now, I think the whole narrative of what Indian girls are has completely changed. And when I'm talking about like Never Have I Ever, I'm not just talking about Maitreyi, but I'm also talking about her older sister, her mom, her,
Yeah.
her grandma and everybody. And that's how like India is, there's still different like stereotypical things that they have shown, but it's very less compared to what the media showed like 10 years ago. So I think for me, like on a personal level, more than body positivity, I think things like that were game changers for me because it was from my personal experience. That's what's coming to my head immediately. I'm sure that there's more, but that's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, that's a really insightful thing, honestly. I think honestly never really thought about it in that way. Yeah, like I think most of the time, like even growing up, like that was the main way we were exposed to just like other countries, India specifically. I think because I've gone to India before, I'm like, okay, it's not,
Yeah.
but no, I know what you mean. It definitely one connotation, and I definitely agree with you that Never Have I Ever definitely cast like a different perspective on it, where it's like even seeing like the grandma, I think that was the big thing where I think a lot of the times Indian grandmas are seen as stereotypical, like you see like in the Bollywood movies, you see like just like certain aspects of it, and then like they're just people. And I think it's like when you see it in a show like Never Have I Ever, like again, going away from body positivity a little bit, but it really casts a light on like, okay, like your grandma can also be like this like just regular person. Like you don't this
Yeah.
have to be this traditional Indian grandma, like
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's a little away from our conversation about body positivity, but I think it also plays a huge role in like identity. So yeah, I'm really glad that they're making shows like that now.
Yeah. Is there a specific show or specific thing you've seen that feel like made you feel seen?
Oh, wow. Uh, Made me feel seen specifically. I think I'm inspired by a lot of aspects of the shows that come around. I think more than shows, I think influencers are helping me being seen.
Yeah.
And I think we spoke about Deepa. I think she's a great example. She's had that international experience. She was raised in India and London, and she spent I'm not like fully sure of her background, but I know that she went to like international schools and had that kind of international experience, and then studied law, stuck to like this traditional path, struggled with beauty and body positivity, and then built a brand around it and like influenced creators. And now he just has such a huge following across the globe, right? I think people like her make me feel seen more than media. So I just hope for more representation like that on social media. And like social media is a form of media. I mean, it's not TV or a
Yeah.
movie, but I think it plays a huge role in your day to day.
Yeah. No, that's really real. I think that Deepa specifically, she also shares a lot about her journey on social media all the time. Like I
Mhm.
think I could definitely see how seeing her stories, like I checked her story a couple days ago and it'll be like, oh, like I'm really tired today and like she's taking
Yeah.
care of her daughter or something. Or even seeing like how when she talks about her body like postpartum, I think that was like
Yeah.
I know neither of us can relate to that, but it was still nice seeing someone who's like super like a woman who's super independent. She's having a child and she's still pursuing everything. I think
Exactly.
that speaks a lot to like representation and diversity as well when for a South Asian, because I think a lot of the times it's like for brown girls it's kind of encouraged like you can only do like one thing or the other, or like you have to be this traditional person. And I think Deepa really just like her being so outspoken about it changes the game for sure.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's the whole purpose of body positivity, right? Like what your body was when you were like 14 versus what you were like in your 20s, and what's going to come is just so different. And like that's the whole point of diversity, right? Embrace your difference. And that is what body positivity is as well. Embrace the difference that your body is bringing. Don't compare yourself with like others. Like see the change and like just like love your body for what it is because it's making you do so many things and it's helping you in your every like life journey in such beautiful ways.
Yeah, your body does so much for you when you think about it. Like, have you ever
Hmm.
seen those posts where it's like the body positivity post on Instagram? It's like one of those like self-love accounts, and it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, your body does so much for you. Like, stop hating on it. And it's like, yeah, you need your body for literally everything. Yet we like have spent so much time, like, again, looking in front of the mirror and just thinking like, oh, if this was different. So I think that that's definitely big. What do you think? So you mentioned, like, oh, I feel like your body at 14 versus now, it's obviously like things are different, things are changing. How do you feel like your journey with that has been? And just like you said, when you were younger, you were super conscious of that, right? So growing up, and obviously our bodies are changing all the time. How do you think your relationship with body positivity and caring about yourself has changed throughout that time as well?
yeah. Oh gosh, it has been a journey. I think I'm being repetitive now because it was such a strong part of me, which I like when I was growing up, when I was in my teenage years, being that obsessive kid on how I'm looking and being conscious all the time. And I was that, I think even like during like sophomore year of college, just being so obsessed with it. And then like after that, realizing that this is not okay. Like this is actually a problem. And then like having self affirmations for myself. I think I'm at a point where I look at myself and like I have self-love. Like I look at myself and like thank my body, say nice things about my body. And like, listening to my body, I think has become so important. Movement's always been very important to me. Like whether it's going for a walk, whether it's swimming, dancing, going to the gym, like that part has always been important to me. But like, what am I doing it for? When I was a teenager, I was doing it to be thin. I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I think now it's because it's such a game changer because it's helping me feel good. Even like for my mind, it's making me feel good. For my body, it's making me feel good. I'm doing it because I feel good, basically, right? So I
Yeah.
think, I think, yeah, I think my journey has been very different. And I'm glad that it's moving in the right direction. Even when like I'm talking to my mom and like I hear her sometimes say something negative, I'll be like, you're gonna become that. Like if you keep saying that to yourself, you're gonna become that because she's seeing a change in her body. Like I'm seeing that because, after menopause, like your body, like during menopause and after menopause, you see a change in your body. And that's overwhelming for a woman as well because she's never seen her body be like that, right? And
Yeah.
when you come from that generation, self-love was there, but I don't think it was to this extent because they didn't see these conversations happen. So I feel
Yeah.
like I'm trying to support her and be there for her and be like, if you keep being like negative towards yourself, you're gonna become that. To start appreciating your body. Like you literally gave birth to me. Like I'm this big now, right? So
Yeah.
love yourself, right? And I want to continue to do that. And these conversations I think are gonna help so many young girls, honestly.
Yeah. No, I really like that. I like that you're being there for your mom in that aspect. I think that generation definitely didn't have that representation.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy for you that you're now at a point where you're able to look in the mirror and that you have those affirmations. I think that it is a journey, but I'm glad that you're finally here at this point. Actually something interesting that I think it was like the very first guest like on this podcast. She mentioned something about body neutrality. I think how you were talking about like acceptance and all that, it really reminds me of that, where like body positivity and like feeling like great and all that all the time is great. But I think like there is something to be said, like when you have those bad days and like you're not gonna feel good about yourself constantly. I think real self
Exactly.
love is being able to just accept like have that body neutrality. It's like I love my body even when I feel like bloated or when I feel just weird.
Exactly.
I think those are the days when you need to like have that mindset for
That
sure.
is, those are the days when you need it the most, honestly. And I think, like, even for movement, for example, like, there are days when you just don't feel like doing something. I think you need to listen to your body. And that's exactly what I was talking about. You need to be able to listen to your body and accept it for the way it is, because that is the form of unconditional love for your body.
Yeah, no, that movement part, but like listening to your body is so real. I think that a lot of the times, like it's what you said, like if you're not working out for the right reasons, then you won't listen to your body because you're
Yeah,
constantly gonna be like, oh my God, like did I lose those 2 inches or whatever, right? I've done that at one
exactly.
point, and it's like,
Yeah,
what's the point of that? It doesn't make any sense. And I think
yeah.
that like being able to work out and have it something that you're looking forward to it's such a good mindset to have. I think this one creator, her name is Tam Kaur. She's a British South Asian American. Do you know her?
I'm not sure. No.
Okay, no, she's really good. She posted so one of her videos, she was talking about how she has like a productive routine and stuff like that. And she talked about like exactly what we're talking about, how she changed her mindset from being self-conscious and wanting to be like thicker or like lift, do more squats and stuff at the gym. So just like, you know what, like today, instead of going to the gym, I'm gonna go for a walk because it's still movement
Yeah,
and it's still something that you're doing to feel good. Because if you go on a walk and you get yourself like a cute latte, like you're still getting like 10,000 plus steps and going on a nice walk, but you're
yeah.
also just having a good time. I think there is that misconception sometimes with movement where it's kind of like, oh, it has to be like grind, grind, grind. You have to be doing, but it's like, no, it's
No,
not.
no, it's not at all like that. I fully agree with you on that.
Yeah. What is your favorite type of movement?
Ooh, it keeps changing. I think dancing is my most favorite. I can dance any time of the day. I love that. And then I've been like I love like being alone in the gym. I don't like going to like a full-fledged gym and like going crazy. But if I have my own time and like love lifting like weights, I think that's like another thing that I love to do. And in the summer, swimming. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. What do you feel like got you into dancing?
Um, I always loved to dance. I can't remember my first memory of like what got me into dancing. I think Bollywood got me into dancing. I loved watching Bollywood movies. I loved how Kareena Kapoor made me feel. And I wanted to dance like her, like that. So I think my earliest memory of like dance class was Shamak Davar in India. And then I was always like told to go up on stage even when I was younger, like to go and perform, and I was okay to do that. I feel like I've always had that performer in me of some sort. So yeah, I think in short, Bollywood got me into dancing.
I love that. I think there's something to be said with media when it comes to what you mentioned about Kareena Kapoor. Yeah, I think for a lot of girls our age who are South Asian, Kareena Kapoor was definitely like a big, like if your parents watch Bollywood movies at home or if you watch them, she was a big influence, I would say for sure.
Yeah. And I love so the confidence that we all need is actually Pooh's confidence. Like looking in
Literally, I
the
was
mirror,
gonna say, ooh.
yeah, like looking in the mirror and saying, कौन है जिसने दोबारा मुड़ के मुझे नहीं देखा, or even
Yeah,
her like from Jab We Met, मैं अपनी favorite हूँ. Like
yeah,
those are the things that you need to do. You need to channel like inner Pooh, inner Geet. Those are like good characters to look at.
yeah.
And like, am I looking fat is not FAT. So that's something that I started doing with my sister. And I started doing the, am I looking fat? And then I would do PH80, pretty hot and tempting.
Wow,
Gotcha.
that's great.
So that's something that whenever I meet them, I would ask them, and the youngest would go PH80. So that's how the narrative changed then eventually.
I love that. That's honestly so cute that you did that. And you're like, no, you're gonna think like this. You're not gonna do that.
Yes, yeah. Pooh has been a big influence. My friends will attest to that. They think that's my second personality.
Oh my God, no, I love that. Pooh is amazing though. No, I think that she is probably one of the only representations I've seen in that era of time in
Yes.
Hollywood, especially where it was that kind of persona of like, oh, like may apni favorite who like I'm my own favorite person, or even the way she would go about having standards when it came to men. I
Yeah.
think that was a really big thing. I think it all just goes back to like having that self-love for yourself and seeing another woman who looks like you in media, like a brown girl, right, have that, even if it's like she's acting, it's like it was so powerful. Because I think after I would watch like Jab We Met, or I watched what's Kabush Kabigam, right,
Yep.
like I literally replay, you know, the beginning scene where it's like she's putting on her outfit and she's like all glam
Yes.
and stuff, and then she
Yeah.
comes down to talk to her GU and everything, and she's like, what, like it's too long. I'm just like, I love you.
Exactly. I absolutely love that. I love it. You should see the way I watched that movie. Like especially from that scene onwards, my eyes are plastered and I have this huge face, like huge smile on my face because it's such a fun and such a real character. Like that's what every like brown girl goes through in her house, and that's how she should respond to it.
Exactly. No, there's something to be said about that. Like the clothing like critiques for sure. I think like yeah, I guess that brings me to the next question. So,
Mhm.
do you feel like your journey with body positivity and accepting your body, do you think that has impacted the way that you dress yourself?
1000%. 1000%. I think, oh gosh, this is such a good question. It's like I'm going back to like my 18-year-old brain. Um, yes, because I think I knew that wearing a certain kind of pant would show my love handles and I would be upset about it. So I wouldn't wear that kind of outfit. But now I'm just like, you know what? Can you see my insecurities? Can you tell what my insecurities are? If you can't, then I can tell yours. And I think we should just embrace it. So yeah, I think definitely I started exploring more clothes that I wouldn't wear when I was younger, just because I felt like I looked a certain way. And now I started wearing those kinds, like even like wearing um tops that like show like my stomach a little bit. I wouldn't wear that when I was younger, just because I felt like I looked, I don't want to use the word because I hate it so much, but I looked fat, for example, like when I was 18, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to feel that way. You don't have to. There's clothes for everyone. Clothes, you don't have to fit for the clothes fit you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's changed. I can't think of an example specifically, but it's a journey. It's definitely a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey for sure. Thank you for sharing that though. I feel like we've been talking about a lot of very real and like intimate things. So thank you for being so
Yeah,
open to just chatting about it.
of course, yeah.
Yeah. I think that like what you said about your body being like the clothes have to fit your body and not the other way around. I think that's so real too. I think that a lot of times in media especially like you see like a specific type of body type like going back to the representation aspect where it's like you feel you have to look like that person to be able to wear that thing, right?
Yep.
Like going back to like how we both like we're like, oh, like we want to be like skinny when we were younger, right? But it's like you can wear a crop top, you don't have to have this like 8-pack abs.
Exactly, exactly. And I think more than these words of like skinny, fat, thin, I think the words that young girls should really talk about are confidence. Like, are you wearing confidence? Are you wearing a smile? Are you feeling good? Are you leading with empathy? Are you leading with kindness? Because that's those five things is what makes you beautiful. Nothing else. No other word makes you beautiful. I think that's the kind of conversation we should start having.
Oh yeah, no, that's so true. I think the confidence that you carry yourself with, like regardless of what it is you're wearing, it makes such a big difference, right? Like when you look at someone who, or not even looking at someone, but like with ourselves, right? Like you're wearing something that, oh, like you like the clothes, but you don't feel confident in it. Like think about the energy you're gonna give off when you go into like a room and talk to people. You're gonna be like, it's not gonna be your best version, you know?
Exactly. And I think that's a really good point because sometimes I think a lot of us also try to wear clothes that are trending and just because they look good on other people and you'd wear them and you wouldn't feel confident. So it's really about what makes you feel best in your body. It could be any type of clothing, but if you feel like you're looking like a rock star, go for it. Like nobody's gonna stop you, nobody's gonna say anything negative to you. And even if somebody does, like learn to cut out that noise and just like do you, like you do you.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about learning to cut out that noise.
Yeah.
I feel like you have had a journey with that aspect, learning to cut out noise.
1000%. There's another saying in Hindi that goes, Kuch to log kahenge, logo ka kaam hai kehna. That goes,
Yeah.
basically, that means people are always going to say something. That's what they're going to do. You could be the most beautiful, the most successful person in the room, but there'll be that one noise, like that one person that's going to have a negative comment. And you
Yeah.
can't do anything about it, right? It's about whether you accept it or whether you learn to cut it out. I think for me, it's been an overwhelming journey. It's definitely way easier said than done. I think an incident actually that's coming to mind is I was at a Patel Brothers in the burbs here in Chicago, and I absolutely love their Indian food. It takes me back home. So I was out there like buying myself a Black Forest pastry. I was really craving it.
Black
And
Forest, so good,
it's
yeah.
so good. It's so underrated. And I was also like very stressed out at work during that time, so had like a lot of cystic acne. So I was out there, like, and I've had like a very like bad relationship with acne as well because it's been a very sensitive like topic. No, nobody in my family had it when I was growing up. So, it was hard. So I was out there buying my pastry, and this lady who was like boxing it for me, she just looks at me and she's like, you've got a lot of acne. Are you doing something about it? And I'm just like, yeah, like, I have a dermat and I have my medicines. She's like, you're not supposed to be eating all of this because it's going to aggravate your acne. And I don't know this lady. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know what I'm going through. And I was so triggered in that moment. This is just a few years ago. I left my pastry, I went back to my car and I bawled. I cried so much for like 20 minutes because I was so affected. I was like, somebody who doesn't even know me has triggered me so much. And that stems from, other people like pointing it out, like other people saying, like, hey, you've got a little spot on your face. Like, I see myself in the mirror. You don't need to call me out on that, right? So I experienced it, I retrospected in that moment when I was crying in the car. And I was like, why is somebody who I don't even know, who doesn't even know my journey, affecting me so much? And that's when I realized, like, I know why I have acne. I know what like I'm doing about it. I don't think a third person needs to affect me so much. And I think whenever I am affected, I'm always taken back to that memory. And then I'm always reminded of like, why am I doing this? Like, what is my journey with like body positivity? And I think body, like acne and like face and like skin color, all of that taken into consideration when we're talking about body positivity. So yeah, it's hard, but snip it out. It's so important and just know your why because as I said, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना.
Yeah, that is so real. I think like that experience that you had is, well, first off, thank you for sharing again. And I can imagine, like, I mean, like, how old were you when this happened?
I was in my 20s. I must have been like 21, 22.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's like
so
a few years ago, like
irritating.
2, 3 years ago, not too long ago.
Yeah, it's so irritating that people think they have the audacity to just come up to you and say something like that. Like, because when you think about it, if like we were like at a public place like that, the last thing you bring up is something that they know, they've seen in the mirror that they might have something or that you don't know what
Exactly.
it is. So why say something?
Exactly. And that's my point about leading with empathy and kindness. Like, I've been raised by two very strong women, my mom and my nanny, and they've always told me like beauty and success are like external factors. It's really about how you lead, right? And if we all just like led with kindness and empathy, we won't be calling each other out. We'd be like supporting each other in our journeys and being each other's cheerleaders. And I think that's what's really important. I think brown girls need to do that for each other rather than, like whispering and be like, oh, like she's got a little something on her face or like, oh, like she's put on, like, no, we don't need to be snippy. We don't need to be Cinderella's evil sisters. We need to be the
Yeah.
mice and the bird for each other.
No, that's so real. I love that analogy, honestly. And I think that it is changing, like as like we're talking about this and other girls are kind of embodying that like the poo energy you would say, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's like it just I think it is a journey though, like you said, because it's really a process to get yourself out of that like in the moment situation and then go back and like why does this matter, right? Like I'm sure like that's kind of what you went through, right?
Yep.
With like the car incident where you're like, this is a random lady, like it's like it sucks. And I think it's so real being impacted by that. Like I've had situations like that where like I struggled with the cystic acne as well. I think this was like during high school and then a little bit during college. And again, like very stress induced, hormonal, just like no one else in my family also experienced acne the same way either. So I can definitely relate to your journey in that aspect.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like super isolating because already you're struggling with your acne, you're figuring
Yeah.
like oh like because when you leave like the your house, you're like, oh my God, like do I look okay? You're figuring that out, you're a little bit insecure about it. And then you go outside and like I remember it was actually like a trip to India I made, and I think it was like it's like random like stranger, and I was like 10 years or 12 years old when this happened.
Oh
And they
my
just like made
gosh.
it like everyone was like looking at me like I had like a problem, like I'm like a charity case to be solved, like you have acne. And it was just like I just remember that. And even like if I saw like an auntie or uncle sometimes like in the neighborhood I grew up in, it was just kind of like you can tell when someone's looking at you, you know what I mean? It's like that I
Yeah.
can feel the vibe, the energy,
And
and
they're not coming from a place of good intent. They're not coming from like, oh, like, you know what? I had this problem and this is how I can help you or like you can fix it. It was always like, oh my God, beta ya ye kya ho gaya? Like I didn't do it on purpose. And why are you
yeah.
coming out to me in such a negative way? And that increases the insecurity. So I don't want to be that auntie for anybody. Like
Yeah, definitely not. I think it's
yeah.
like it would come from a place of just like, oh, like you have something. It's like, why like why are you telling me this?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
exactly. Exactly. It's annoying.
it's so annoying. No, I
I'm
agree.
sorry that you had to go through that when you were 12 years old. I can only imagine what you must have felt.
Yeah, it was insane, but I think like I grew for the better from that because I like you said, like we're not gonna be that sort of person for anyone. I think these sort of experiences with like body positivity and identity and figuring out like how you want to represent yourself really teach you
Yeah.
about how you want to lead for like the rest of your life. Like as like a young woman, like even like if you decide to be like a mom at one point, like I think that's really powerful. I
Yep.
think, you know, we've talked about a lot so far, body positivity, identity, our experiences with acne, like just like not even body positive, like body, like relationship. I think we've
Yeah.
talked a lot about that. What do you feel like is something that you would want to send as a message to other, like our audience watching, other brown girls, other women of color, whoever it may be?
Oh, I have so much to say. Have you heard the song Who Says by Selena Gomez?
I love that song.
I think it is one of the best songs that exist. So
Yeah,
I would first of all tell our audience to go listen to that after this episode, like play it on full volume and
yeah,
like just dance because that's what you should be doing. And I think my only message is just embrace your difference. Like when even in a corporate setting, when you bring something different to the table, it's really appreciated. It's unique. It's something that's out of the box, right? So embrace it. It is literally your superpower. We have the ocean and we have the mountain in our world, right? They're both very different. They both come with their perfections, their flaws, but they're both so unique and they both add so much beauty to this world, right? So you don't have to have a herd mentality. You can be yourself, you can be unique, and you can still add so much sparkle to the world. So just embrace it and be you and run your own race, whether it's about success, whether it's about beauty, whether it's about your relationship with your body.
yeah.
Like be slow, but like don't compare yourself with others. Just compare yourself with yourself and cut out the noise. Like that is just so important.
I love that. That's so powerful. Comparing yourself to today versus you yesterday. That's so big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And definitely Who Says by Selena Gomez. It's so good. I literally,
I love that
yeah.
song. That's the song like that used to empower me when I was a young girl. And I still listen to it till this day. Like some days when I'm feeling super low, I'll just blast that song. And I think I'm gonna do that after this. I'm feeling good, but I also want to listen to that song.
You know what? I want to do that after this too. So,
Yeah.
one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing a lot of things with your career, a lot of personal journey, just like you're an all-rounder person. What do you hope to achieve through your platform or work, just when it comes to impacting other people?
Yeah, no, first of all, thank you so much. I think my biggest mission and my biggest like goal is to change these like negative narratives. I don't want other girls to be growing up with these negative notions. I want to convert them into positive notions. And I want to change our communities and our society for the better. And whether that's through my podcast or whether that's through my work, I want to be a strong collaborator and a key contributor to every conversation that I'm having. Even when it's with my podcast, I want young children, like young people, to be influenced and be inspired by those conversations for the right reasons. And same with media. Like when I'm having conversations at work, I want to make sure that we have the right representation on every like screen that you are watching. So I think that seed that I spoke about right at the beginning of our conversation, which was ingrained, I want to continue for that to grow. And I just want to change every negative connotation that exists and make it a positive one so that other young girls don't need to have these conversations in their 20s. They just don't have to have these conversations at all because self-love is ingrained, body positivity is ingrained. And yeah, I think that's the message and that's what I want to do through my work.
I love that. I think that you're gonna be a full girl boss and kill it. I think you'll,
Thank you
yeah,
so
you
much. Right
already
back at
are.
you. Uh-huh. What was that?
I said you already are doing it.
Aw, thank you so much. And so are you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, that concludes this podcast episode. Thank you everyone for watching. Make wonderful chatting with you, Ritika. Definitely come on again next time. And to our audience, make sure you guys go ahead and support her podcast, follow her on Instagram. If there's anything else, we'll link it in the description below. And thank you so much for watching. And again, remember to go listen to Who Says by Selena Gomez and embody Who Energy if you are a South Asian girl and you've seen that movie. But I'll link it in the description as well for anyone who doesn't know. So
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
yes. All right. Until next time.